Hey, I am celebrating a birthday, and it's not a milestone birthday, yet it feels like a milestone birthday. I'm going to be 58, and I couldn't stop wondering why I felt the way I did about this particular birthday. I'm always excited about birthdays. I love their birthdays. And as I say, it's not a milestone. Just wait till a couple of years of time when I turn 60. But what I realised was that it's been 5 years since I made one of the biggest leaps in life and career. I'd already moved countries, but 5 years ago is when I decided to step back from my C-suite, my corporate career. I was the first female CEO to help telecoms industry out here in my ancestral home, and having moved from the UK 5 years prior, and I decided that it was time for a change, huge upheaval. And so that 5 years for me was actually the landmark. That was what I was feeling, that those 5 years, 60 months much since I almost made that move. Not the decision, because I decided maybe a few months before I'd given notice, but I actually made the change literally the month after my birthday. So I wanted to have a look at what it was that those 5 years had done for me, how I felt, because 5 years doesn't sound like a long time, but a lot can happen in 5 years, and especially when you consider we've had the whole pandemic situation in between. So 5 years ago, I was working as hard as I could, many hours, long, huge hours, for as long as I could. I was always in the office, I was always on call, the phone was always attached to my hip, and I was on emails, you name it, it was always there. Now I'm actually working to make a much bigger impact in the lives of other Black women. Because I've been there, I know what it's like, I know the challenges, I know the fears and the concerns we have about making those changes, especially when you're sometimes the main breadwinner. How are you going to do that? What are you going to do? What are my skills? Aren't I starting over? All those things that go through our mind. So I use that experience, what I've learned along the years, as well as that, to help other women make those same decisions for themselves once they turn 40 and above. 5 years ago, I felt I was taking actions that really conflicted with my ethics because I got paid to do them. So, you're in a job, you're in a role, you're not the boss of yourself because there's always someone ahead, someone above you. But, I did what I was told, even when I didn't agree with it sometimes. It went against my values and how I felt about it. But, it was conflicting, but I got paid to do it. Now I'm taking action because that's what's required to help me solve a problem that matters to me or my client. So it's not a case of that I feel like I'm having to do it. I'm doing it because I want to do it, and that makes a huge difference. I was 5 years ago miserable, bored and cranky. I mean, it's a wonder I'm still married. I always say this, my husband he has the most patience, because I took all the loathing, how I felt about my work, how I was feeling, I took that all out at home, and he was my proverbial punch bag without even me even realising it. So I just wasn't happy. But 5 years later, now I'm really excited. I'm really excited to channel my health, my energy to supporting my clients from my now home office that overlooks my veggie garden. I took up gardening as a means to my mental health a couple of years ago, and it's gone great guns since then. So it really has made a difference to to what I'm thinking, how I feel right now. 5 years ago, I was struggling to focus on anything that didn't involve work. And I've just noticed a typo there, but anyway. So everything was all around work. If it didn't involve work, I didn't think about it. I just didn't have time to think about anything else. No time for me, no time for those about me, nothing. Personal health, mental health all went out the window. Now I'm working out how I can apply equal focus to the things that bring me joy and my career. Sometimes there's a bit of a fight because I want to spend more time doing the things that bring me joy than I do my career. But I found out how to make that work for me on my terms, so it feels far more comfortable for me. When I was 53, I was treating the symptoms of career dissatisfaction as I need to find a job. So I was unhappy in my job. I need to find a job. That put me in a whole tailspin because back then I was living on a small island. Options are very, very limited. So me thinking about I need to find a new job, thinking that my options were highly limited, was even more stressful. Then now what I do is I changed it up, and I realised that what I do now, or help other women do now, is treat symptoms of career dissatisfaction, as identify my mid-career values, because those do change. What I valued back in my 30s, my 40s, no longer all that relevant to me now in my 50s. So, and I helped to design a career to suit, and that's what I've done myself, and that's what I help other women do. So it's about how you view where your career is at that point. At 53, I was in fear mode, total fear zone. As I said, am I too old to make a move? What am I doing? How am I going to do this? I've got nothing to offer. Lots and lots of things were going through my head. Especially at that time, I was in my 50s. What are you doing? Shouldn't you be thinking about something else, not changing total careers? Now at 58, I faced my fears head on, and I talk about, when I turned 50, that things that I thought used to fade me, like my fear of heights and various other things, I started facing head on. And that has carried on with me out through, and that has really brought great dividends for me for how I feel about my career going forward. Yeah, 5 years ago, I felt my impact. You all want to have, most of us want to have an impact. And my impact back then was limited and localized. It was, short supply, very limited. And it was just where I was right there. What's the impact I do within my role, and sometimes in the country I was just in. Now, oh wow, so much things have happened. I produce content on, that has impact. I feel it has impact, and the feedback I get tells me it has impact. So, I have a podcast, I have the YouTube channel, This Woman Can. I'm an author, a speaker. I create online courses or programs. All of this is accessible globally, so that gives me much greater impact and growing. So it was really nice for me to sit down and really look back at how 5 years can make a difference. Because I know, for one, I certainly didn't want to be doing this or being in a role that was making me miserable for, when I retire. Well, what is retirement now? We're living older. So I don't know how much longer I was going to be in that role. So when I think about it, on reflection, how do I feel about my next 5 years of work, which will take me up to plus 60? Absolutely fabulous. My t-shirt says I'm not an age, I'm an attitude. And that's really how I face my career, how I face work. So really, that's just me sharing that. So if it sparks something for you, let's have a chat. How do you feel about your next 5 years of work? Is it something you're happy doing? And if it's not, you can't see yourself doing that for the next 5 years, what are you going to do about it? Because there's always time. So thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. I'm off to enjoy the rest of my birthday. Take care.